to yet another episode of Me Dark Presents Scary Movie Madness, episode 39, a return to normal after 2 crazy weeks.
Very crazy weeks.
Played Trick or Treat Trivia.
I'm never going to recover from Bean Boozled again. I'll tell you that.
I know, at the end you said that we're never playing it again, but I
know,
think
but
I
you're
think we
like,
should.
oh, we'll bring it back every Halloween.
Well, what's cool is we actually brought it into our Halloween party because we always play games for the Halloween party, and we were one game short, and I was like, let's just play Trick or Treat Trivia. We had plenty of jelly beans left over.
And
Had
they
a
were
spit
all
bucket.
terrible.
All terrible. We had a spit bucket for everybody. Everybody liked toothpaste, though.
Well, once they realized that there was like a safe option,
Mm-hmm.
that's what they went with. But then those ran out, and now you're left with the worst ones. So it still wasn't great. And I'm still not convinced that there's more than like one or two of the good
There's not
flavors.
a lot of good ones. Yeah.
There's no shot.
No. And I think they should balance it out, but I guess they purposely do it that way.
Yeah.
Whatever. And then we had an episode, I talked about the making of my short film, The Pig, with my co-creators at Platinum Platypus HQ, which was a lot of fun. I think everybody should check it out. I think it's just cool and interesting to see how anything's made.
Yeah.
Especially a short film. I don't ever recall seeing like a behind the scenes of a short film being made, at least not like in that capacity where it's like a long form podcast and everybody's, talking. It's just a different kind of format usually.
Yeah. And you had such great insights into there. It's like, I always talk about this part of it, but the fish monster to me is one of the coolest things. It's like that could have been a fail.
Could have been a fail very easily, yeah.
Could have easily like taken out the whole thing. But because of technology, because you've been so apt to what's happening with AI and all of these different platforms, like you were like, no, this is not taking me out. I'm gonna use technology and we're gonna make this work. And it's great. Like you would never even know.
And that's always been my approach to AI. I think there's a lot of back and forth out there about, I guess the stealing other people's art and, training a model to recreate an artist's work. I totally understand that argument. But my thing was always, listen, it's a tool like anything else, and you can use it for good or you can use it for bad. There's good powers and there's bad powers. Obviously, you can pick which one.
Yeah.
And for me, it was, if this thing can help me create a CGI creature, I'm interested in that, right? Because that just means that my whole world opens up to me as a visual effects artist, and I can say, look, I can now create more things in a quicker amount of time for less money, and that's exciting to me. And that's why I pick up the tool and I say, listen, I can use this for this good purpose.
And with less people, because you've got a small team. So to be making these things and doing it, I think TJ says it in the actual podcast of like 10 years ago.
Yeah, how
if
do
you
you
were
get
making this, it would have been a whole team to make that fish monster. And it's wild what we can do today. So
yeah. And it's also, I think the less barriers to entry you have, the better. Like we always talk about make new things, right? Well, part of that is it's hard to get new things made because the people with the money hold all the power.
Yeah.
And they basically can pick and choose where their dollars go to, and they're choosing to put it into IPs with pre-established audiences, so they know, okay, I'm going to get X amount of return on my money. Let's make another Top Gun, even though the first movie came out 30 years ago. Who cares?
People love it. It's so
I know.
bizarre.
But that's just it, is as long as the consumer buys the prepackaged
They'd rather
brand.
have that. Like, they'd rather have that idea that, like,
Right.
people already love this, so just do that. And it doesn't even matter if it's good. It's like, no one wants to just invest in something that's unknown. No one wants to take that risk.
And that's part of it. It's hard to do that, right? But if you can have these things like AI where, basically the world of visual effects, as far as I'm concerned, has changed forever. Like I have totally different ideas about what I can accomplish now with like you said, with a small team for less money. And that just means that I don't have to rely on a big studio to make a movie that looks super high end and big budget, even though it's not.
Yeah.
So that's really cool.
Agreed.
But before we get into what's Screamin', I just want to let everybody know what we're talking about today.
Oh yeah, I
didn't even mention the movies we're talking, because these two movies were very scary and brutal, and they're brand new films.
And they're brand new, and they've been all over the place. Like I feel like during Halloween we always look at like, what are the movies to watch right now?
Yeah.
And generally it's always the same old stuff, but we're looking for something new and something again different, make new things.
Hmm.
And both of these have been talked about so much. And I was definitely hesitant about Talk to Me, which is the
Yeah.
first one that
Hmm.
we watched, because again, like another demon possession
Yep.
thing, people were talking about it in some ways in relation to Hereditary, which not the same thing at all.
No.
I don't even know how those became conflated other than just the possession part,
No
but even
idea.
then it's far-fetched. And then the second one was When Evil Lurks. The interesting one about that is we didn't realize it wasn't in English, so it's
Not in
definitely not
English.
for everybody. You've got to be invested with actually reading subtitles, or maybe you speak, I think it's Spanish, or is
It's
it
Spanish.
Portuguese?
Yeah.
It sounded a little
Oh, it could be
Portuguese.
Portuguese. Don't. I didn't look this up ahead of time.
No, we did not. Anyway, didn't know much
Yeah.
about either of these. But it was really satisfying in the end. So yeah, I don't want to give too much away. We got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Also, if you are joining us and you haven't already and you love the show, please like and subscribe. Follow our socials everywhere at Me Dark Presents. If you can share the content, that really helps us. Write a review for us wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah.
That'll really help us just get the word out and get more people watching, which is the ultimate goal here. Before we move on, what's Screamin'?
What is Screamin'? All right. So we've got two really fun things today.
Okay.
Frankenstein, for the lovers of that.
Oh boy. Speaking of not making new things.
Speaking of not. But to be fair, Guillermo del Toro is making something new out of it. And it's pretty exciting because of the cast. So he has actually wanted to do this for so long. It is not a remake per se, which is what I'm excited about, at least. He's not just trying to do the same old thing.
There's many iterations of Frankenstein stories and movies too.
Correct. But I think
it's a very malleable character in that way. You can kind of tell the story so many different ways.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, again, with his style specifically,
That's what's exciting.
that's
about
what's making me excited. Because, like, to be fair, I'm not a big fan of the OG monsters. Like, I know you love The Creature. I'm sure there's lots of people out there that are obsessed with Frankenstein and the Mummy and all of these things. It's not for me. It's just not.
Yeah, yeah, I get that.
So I like the idea of someone
I
doing it
think-
and maybe doing it so well that I fall in love with the character.
And I think at this point, because those movies happened so early on in the history of motion pictures, like those were some of the first monster movies.
Yep.
I think maybe Nosferatu is the earliest example of a monster movie. Maybe I'm not sure, but not too far after that, the Universal monsters.
Yeah.
So I think there's a certain level of nostalgia that's attached to those characters that they'll always be loved because they were among the first.
Of course. And they're iconic. I'm not saying they're not iconic. It's just I'm not turning on Frankenstein.
Sure.
So what makes this super exciting is the cast as well. So not only is Guillermo gonna give us his take on this, but he has commissioned some of the best people right now. We've got Oscar Isaacs in it for one, which
Awesome.
love. We've got Andrew Garfield in it. We've got Christoph Waltz, and we've got
wow, really?
I know, and Mia Goth, the newest
she's
Scream
in
Queen.
yeah.
She is officially just the it girl of horror at this point. I think she was just made for the genre, but hopefully she starts doing some other things because I don't want to get stuck with her as this one trick pony,
I mean, very cool. I think, great cast, obviously. I'm excited to see, what they do with the characters and who plays what. But I mean, when it comes to creature designs and having really practical effects that mix really well with visual effects, I mean, there are very few who do it better than Guillermo del Toro. So
amen.
I think that's a really cool pairing. In fact, part of me, it's weird if that movie that he got such critical acclaim for, The Shape of Water. I always sort of feel like that's like his sort of love letter to Creature from the Black Lagoon. There's a lot of like similarities with it.
Interesting. I
like
wonder
the
if we looked it
design
up
of
if
the
he talks about
creature,
that.
and I don't know. I've never really dove into it.
Yeah. Well,
I imagine the tone will sort of be similar to that film. Maybe. I could see there being some.
I mean, there's not a lot coming out about it just yet, but I'm sure there will be with the writer strike and everything. Again, it's one of those ones that's filming. What's also interesting, though, that I just came across is like this will be for Netflix, and Maggie Gyllenhaal is also doing her own. producing and
Frankenstein?
directing, but she's doing The Bride of Frankenstein.
Okay, so maybe they're doing that on
Maybe they go
purpose.
together. I
Yeah.
don't know. Again, not a lot known. That
Maggie
one's.
Gyllenhaal, she's a legit director, filmmaker type too,
Oh, remember that
multi-talented.
show Deuces?
Yeah, she
I loved
directed.
that
I think
show.
she might have even written some episodes.
Yeah.
She's multifaceted talent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So some interesting things to look forward to.
Hmm.
Not new things, but we're talking about new things today, so that's okay. And then second, just a little bit of fun because you're a gamer.
Yeah.
But well, you like video games.
Yeah.
But I think it was like last year, started playing these like horror movie games.
There's an awesome one. Yeah, for PS5.
Yeah, and
I
I
forget
love
the name
them.
of it though. That's
The
horrible of
Quarry,
me.
the Quarry,
The Quarry.
the
That's
Quarry was the best one, but there was another one we were playing, and I didn't like it because it
Yeah.
was one player.
Yes, the Quarry was the one. That one you and I played together, sort of taking turns with the different characters.
Yeah.
And it's like legit, like you're in a horror movie.
Oh my gosh, I would like get stressed.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
I can't do that. I can't run from this monster.
And the
forget
graphics
it.
are really good. They use real actors, so you
Yep.
sort of get lost
It's
in
like
a lot
Ariel
of
Winter was in it, and like
Mhm.
Brenda Song,
David Arquette.
yeah, wild.
Mhm.
So in that realm, they are bringing Barbarian to a video game.
Mm.
Now I'm sad because it's only one player, so we're gonna have to do the same nonsense. But I am intrigued. So excited to look for that to come out and for us to try it out and maybe
I wonder if
we'll
it
get
would.
it and see.
I wonder if it would be a similar format to the Quarry. I don't know that it could be because the Quarry is more like that slasher genre with the big ensemble cast.
Yeah.
Barbarian is way more isolated.
Yeah, it's very much like it's what 3 main characters really,
Yeah.
so it's not even that
So
much.
yeah, I'd be interested to see what a game of that ilk would look
But
like.
like, imagine playing the game being chased by the barbarian monster. Like, I'm gonna bug out.
That'd be scary.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
like it. All right. Well, I like it, but I don't like it. All right. Well, that's what I've got for you today.
Well, I actually have one that I just came across today.
Oh.
So I have a little what's Screamin here, and
Oh.
it's in the same vein of they're not making new things.
Oh, here we go.
They're making
Yours is the Debbie Downer part of my What's Screamin' news. I try to at least bring things you
Well,
like.
they're making a sequel to It Follows. They Follow or
Oh
something
my
like
God.
that.
You loved It Follows, and I remember being so excited to see that in the theaters.
There's some really great, suspenseful, scary scenes in
like
that movie.
Maybe we have to watch it again. But
I would
I
love
did
to
not
watch it
like
again.
it in the theaters. Maybe I will appreciate it now, but I really don't care.
Let's watch it tonight after the podcast.
All right, let's do it.
Okay.
Deal.
All right, so let's dive into Talk to Me. And there's a lot of really interesting things to talk about with this movie because I didn't know it until I researched after the fact because
Yeah.
that's just, what I do for the podcast just to get my bearings on, okay, who made this film?
Yeah.
And it was the brothers who are responsible for this YouTube channel called Raka Raka. They're based in Australia. They started coming out with these really fun videos, I remember back in like 2013. And it would be like a thing around the office. Like whenever they would release a video, we would all gather around to watch it because it was very visual effects heavy, actually. And they did some really, really great VFX with really, really fun style action shots.
Yeah.
And they would do these things where like, half of them dress up as Marvel superheroes and the other half as DC. And they have like a battle royale, but it's like they're in Halloween costumes and they're in their house. It was just they're just a fun group of guys and they make really cool stuff. I don't begrudge them if, they want to make this possession movie. It wouldn't be my first choice, but I think the way that they chose to do it is very fresh and original. And I really, really enjoyed this movie.
Yeah.
I think it's available for rent. I think we rented it on Amazon Prime to watch it. I'm sure you could rent it anywhere you can do it. And obviously you could purchase the film also. Really cool premise here. You got this group of friends and they have this hand that's embalmed. And if you touch the hand and you say these magic words, you can talk to dead people. Right?
Not just talk to them.
I see dead people.
Not just talk to them, but have them use you as a vessel to
Right.
talk to them. So the person holding the hand and saying the words becomes the vessel and everyone else interacts with this spirit, if you will.
So this is Talk to Me. IMDb has it listed as 2022, but I could swear this movie came out this year in 2023. A little bit of a discrepancy there. I'm not sure. But it is written and directed by the Filippo brothers. I don't know how to say their name. Danny and Michael Filippo. What's cool too is they were actually they worked as production hands on the Babadook.
Oh,
I think Danny was one of the camera operators and Michael was one of the production assistants
oh,
or part
interesting.
of the production crew.
See, got to start
Um,
somewhere.
this one stars Sophie Wilde as Mia. She is our main character. But we don't start with Mia. We start with this really crazy opening scene. Do you remember the opening scene
Oh
with the
my God.
brothers?
Well, I remember the opening scene too because it's like so chaotic.
It is chaotic. You got like this crazy party going
Immediately
on.
chaotic.
Mhm.
Yeah. And like banging on the door and like,
Mhm.
trying to get his brother out of his room and breaking down the door. And then all of a sudden he's just covered in all these marks and scratches and cuts and things. And you're
Yeah.
just like, wait, what the hell is going on?
It's a cool, like, little cryptic way to open it,
Yeah.
you
I
know?
don't even want to say more from that because I
Yeah.
think if you're watching this, that whole scene plays out where you're like, oh, I'm about to be in for a ride.
Yeah. I mean, they definitely open it with a bang. You know,
Yeah.
there's some shock value there
Yeah.
with these two brothers, and I like that. I like when you can set the stage that quickly and that poignantly, right? It's
Hmm.
not like a very long, drawn out scene. It happens, like you said, like very
It's got to be
intensely.
like 5 minutes or less,
Yeah.
honestly.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah, so and it's one of the things that struck me right away with this movie is how I like how they shot that, and I like how all the people interact in the house. It all feels very realistic,
Hmm.
and the dialogue just overall in the film just struck me as like it all felt very real. It was almost the opposite of, I was saying the issue I was having with some of the other ones where I was like, oh, I don't know if maybe just the kids are too young, like Elevator Game,
Right.
and their acting seems worse to me
They
because
were
they're
so
young.
Gen Z.
But it's not the case because like these are young kids too, and they just feel more like real people to me.
Yeah.
And I,
These were more, yeah, I guess they're both technically college. I think that Elevator Game leaned more
they're
so
younger, I
into
guess.
like trendy
No, these kids are in high school.
influencer. No, are they? I don't think they're high
Yes, they
school.
are because they have like Riley's along with for the ride because he is the younger brother
But
of
he's the young one, but the rest of them,
right.
I
But I
think.
I read it as like he's a freshman in high school. They're
Oh,
all
I read it
seniors.
more
That's
as
why
like,
they're together.
yeah, I read it more as that they were like the first year college kids because
No,
they,
I don't think so.
I don't know. Who cares? Either way, they're young.
I think we have scenes of them in at the high school in the beginning. I'm almost positive they're all together at a high school.
Maybe. But I think the big difference is the dialogue itself. I think that Elevator Game leaned into the influencer style Gen Z
They're
person
different types of people.
using, yes,
Yeah,
using heavy Gen Z slang. And
that's
like,
fair.
I think this one was just people.
Yeah.
Didn't like lean into a cultural,
They're not
corner.
the social media influencers, but
No,
although
there's a lot of filming.
there is that element to it, right? Because that is sort of how we kick into this thing
Hmm.
is you have these two kids, Zoe Tarakes, I can't say names, as Haley. He's like the main kid with the long hair.
Hmm.
And Chris Alozio as Joss. He's the one that actually he has this hand. Somebody
Yeah.
had passed it down to him. And what they do is they hold these parties where, they allow for people to voluntarily be possessed. Essentially, you sit down, you hold this hand, this embalmed hand that apparently it belonged to somebody who claimed that they could see
They were a
and
medium,
communicate with the dead. They're a
psychic
medium.
medium.
So what do they do? Like they cut off the guy's hand and they encase it, they embalm it in like a stone.
I mean, that is a weird part, but again, you're watching a movie about demonic possession. You gotta like expand your limits here, right? So
Mhm.
I do love that it's all like signed and written on it. Like
Yeah.
it also kind of just adds the idea of like these kids are messing with something because a psychic medium is taking it super seriously,
Mhm.
like and probably like doing things in a safer way. And this is just like a joke to them. Like it's like, oh, you did it. Sign your name on the hand. And it's like such a disrespect for the dead that you just know they're about to be screwed.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't mind it at all because I always think it's if you can add like this element of an item, a mysterious item in a horror movie is
Mm-hmm.
always very alluring and intriguing because there's always something to unwrap. And what I like about this one as opposed to, let's say, Elevator Game, where the rules of it and the point of it was a little too muddy in the end.
Yeah.
The rules here are very, very clear. Again, very poignant. First, you light a candle.
First, you light the
You light the
candle.
candle.
You have
That's
to be chained to a chair, which, like,
right.
I'm out.
So they light the candle, open the door, they strap her down. You know, she grabs the hand, and you say, "Talk to me." And that's when it appears. And then you say, "I let you in." And that's how the spirit is able to possess your body.
Yep. No. I love this actually from the first time you see it
Mm-hmm.
because you see nothing, but you see Mia like bugging out.
I mean, it is terrifying. And I think, you know, to your point, Mia's reaction being so crazy in the you know, once she first sees the thing, it's because she's not expecting it to work.
No.
Right? She's not expecting to see anything.
Yeah.
So that's obviously a great, very realistic reaction.
Yeah, they did it really, really. I think they did that part really well. Not showing us too much too soon, but still giving us what we need.
But what does he say? He goes, "You have 90 seconds, right? After 90 seconds, what happens?"
We don't know.
He said they're going to want to stay.
Yeah.
Right?
But they don't really know. Like they say multiple times, you know, throughout of like, we
But
don't know.
it is a clear rule. And
Yeah.
we do recognize that when it's broken, it does have consequences.
Yep.
So when Mia does this for the first time, it's like a really gross, like bloated woman that she sees.
No one could convince me of doing that ever. I don't care how much money you gave me. I don't care what was on the line. No shot.
Yeah.
I'm ever going to even sit in the chair, let alone get to the point of seeing this woman who clearly must have drowned or something with her skin peeling off and her eye. And I was like, no.
But here's
everything
the thing.
about it is a nope.
Here's the thing. And this is why I'm on the opposite side of you.
I would actually do it?
I would do this.
Get
I'm
the hell
gonna
out.
I'm gonna tell you why. Number one, because I'm one of the biggest skeptics you'll ever meet when it comes to this stuff being real. I don't believe in ghosts or spirits or the other side or none of that stuff. So if there was a mechanism by which I could be proved wrong in that regard, I want to see it.
I could do it that a lot of ways, not that one.
Mm-hmm. But the secondary reason why I would want to do this is the same reason that the young little Riley wants to do it eventually and can't resist begging to do it, is because this great little twist that they put on it, that it's sort of addictive and like a drug.
Yeah.
Like once you do it, after she gets out of this possession, even though she goes over 90 seconds, she says that was amazing, right? This euphoria just fills her.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think it's like once you have done it and almost feel like there's no danger, that is the most dangerous thing. Like it is something so dangerous, but you get out of it unscathed, seemingly, and you're like, oh, okay, I can do this again.
Yeah.
I've already done it once. What's the difference?
Well, that's just, you get experience with it and you get comfortable doing it. And then if it does feel as great as they make it out to feel, then I think that would be enough to influence a lot more people who maybe think like you and go, I don't want to do it, I'm too scared, to see other people do it multiple times and keep coming out the other side and having this great, joyous experience.
Yeah.
I think it would maybe change your tune. And
I still would never do it. No shot.
Well, see, here's the thing is you've lost people close to you.
Yeah.
And we have this nice little motive by Mia to want to do this because she has just recently lost her mother.
Okay.
So part of it, I think, for her is, if you could theoretically communicate with the other side, wouldn't you want to maybe try to utilize that tool to seek that out, try to communicate with No?
No. Because if you are someone who actually listens to this world of speaking to the dead, you actually are like in tune with what it means. You know that these spirits impersonate other spirits. Like the Ouija board, for example, is the prime thing here.
As you should mention, that's exactly what happens.
It is exactly what happens. And I would know that sitting there going, yeah, no, you think you're going to talk to something good. And I know that the people in limbo are not going to be good. The ones in limbo are not things that you want to talk to. They have unfinished business or they are just stuck between where they're supposed to go. I am not letting that in. No shot.
It's interesting. It begs the question of, okay, let's say that this stuff is real and you can communicate with the other side. The assumption based on what you're telling me, according to the lore of,
using
communicating
these
with the
types of
dead,
things.
is that you're only going to get bad.
No,
can
you're not only
communicate.
going to get bad.
Okay.
But to be
So how would
young,
you
dumb, and inexperienced,
how would you know the difference?
I don't know,
If
because
the
I'm
demon
not
is
that
that
person.
good at convincing you that, okay, this is your grandmother.
I would like to believe that if I was talking to a spirit that was good, look at how these kids turn. Their eyes go black, their mouth and stuff starts to look like necrosis almost, right?
Yeah.
Like just rotting.
Mhm.
And then it just goes away,
All your
right?
color
It's like
comes
you can
back,
just
yeah.
tell, like this whole idea again of the 90 seconds, the longer they're in it, the more that appearance of their face gets crazier and crazier, and then they are released and it goes away. But I think that's exactly the problem is like anything else, there are people who know the art of this world of speaking to the dead, and a bunch of kids who just have something that does it is naive and stupid. So like I was never a stupid kid, so I would never do stupid things like this.
Well, I have to say, if the kid who has to make out with the dog, right? Remember that scene?
So this is
If that had happened before I had to go, I think that would have been enough for me to go like, all right,
that.
you know what? I get that it's real, but I don't want to do it.
Well, what's interesting about that is another thing that I like is that they did tap into the demon reading your thoughts. And he was the
Sure.
first one that really showed you that. Like Mia, it ends up happening. But he was that first real peak that when Mia does it again, it's going to tap into her psyche and use it against her.
Yeah, and she starts to see all the dead people and the spirits even without the hand.
Because of the 90
right?
seconds.
Because she does go beyond. And she even has a point in which she does it alone by herself, which they presented it as you need to time yourself so you can get out in time. But really the only way to get out is somebody has to rip the hand from your hand.
And someone has to blow out the candle.
So I'm not sure if maybe it's because she's holding the hand at the same time that she can just separate. But it seems like it's too hard to do without help.
Yeah, because
they chain you down. She doesn't chain herself down. All of a sudden, she just does it by herself, and it's.
I think they chain them down in the case of like what happens. At least this demon is restrained. It's more of like that's their one safety precaution. Their one. But I do think that was probably the one flaw that I pointed out was like, oh, come on, don't do that now. Like,
yeah,
you got to chain somebody, you got to blow out a candle, and you have to
they break
pry
the
this thing
rules
out
a
of your
little bit
hands.
with that.
They break a little bit of the rules. Yeah.
My favorite scene overall, though, is the Riley scene, and
I yelped.
And it's perfectly set up too, because the way that the scene sort of winds down after this big group session of them all going multiple times, this great little montage of all the creepy possessions throughout all the people at the party. And Riley's watching this, and Riley's just, according to everybody else, just too young to do this. But he's witnessing all of this chaos and fun that everybody's having. And they're packing up, and they're like, and he's just like, please, can I do 50 they're negotiating the amount of seconds.
Yeah.
And you just know in that moment, like, he's gonna eventually bargain them down to one that they're okay with, and it's not gonna go well for little Riley.
No matter what. You knew
you can see it coming a mile away. But this is what I love horror stuff like this is the beginning of the scene is setting up a really, really critical ending point to the scene that's gonna totally change the whole tone and tide of this movie.
100%.
And when Riley gets possessed, it is absolutely brutal.
It is unlike any other thing they experienced.
This is one of my new things, I think, the self-smashing of the head onto something, just the slam of the face over and over again.
It wasn't even that for me. It was it was the digging of the eye.
Oh, the eye.
The eyeball. No. I was screaming. I couldn't,
You looked away.
I don't like anything touching my eye.
Yeah,
that was too much for me.
That was awesome, though. It looked awesome.
Yeah.
And I had mentioned to you that, a lot of the stuff that we had seen as of late, they weren't really showing a lot of the
Yeah,
horror.
lots of
They weren't
cutaways.
showing a lot of the kills, a lot of cutaway kind of stuff.
Lazy.
I think that's why Barbarian stuck out. Like and
Mhm.
again, that was a face smash over and over
Yeah.
again. They like showing the crunching of the face, which is just
Brutal.
absolutely brutal.
And then even when he's in the hospital, the makeup of
He's
like how
total
damaged
mess
his
in the
face.
hospital. Yeah, but I mean, overall, like the whole motivation for Mia going through this journey, because her mother kind of dies in this mysterious way, which I think is it's a nice little angle to take. It's of like, did she commit suicide or didn't she? And the demon sort of takes over her mom's image.
Likeness.
Her likeness at some point, and starts really manipulating Mia down this dark path. And you couple that with her feeling guilty for letting Riley, be possessed in the first place.
Yeah.
And that was another part of the rules that is really like a dark little nugget they put is, if you die while they're in you, they will have you forever.
Oof. And like right then and there, nothing good is coming of this.
Yeah.
If that's a rule, then these
It's a
aren't
rule.
good spirits.
You're definitely taking your life in your hands by doing
no.
it. I love the ending of this movie. I think they wrap it up super well.
Yeah.
And all
satisfying.
the juxtaposition of her in and out of the possession versus the reality of her relationship with her father. And they do this really cool thing with her dad too, is that whenever he's sort of in the frame, he's sort of out of frame. Like they kind of hide him in the frame, either in shadow or in the depth of field, or you're seeing like the side of his head or the back of his head. As the film builds up and he starts to reveal himself more and he shares the suicide note with her, that's when we start really seeing him.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that they film him in the beginning is almost like the way Mia is treating him, right?
Yeah.
He
She's
tries to
closed
call
off.
her and she hangs up the phone immediately, and he's trying to have a conversation with her. She has her back turned to him, so our back is sort of turned towards him. The way that they block that out, and that sort of cinema, that's visual storytelling.
Yeah.
Really well done.
Yeah.
Because it sort of tells you like there's something off about this guy or her connection to him.
Yeah, and it's more their relationship, and I think again the downward spiral of losing her mother, feeling alone, feeling like she doesn't have anybody, she's not connecting with her father. She blames him in some ways for it. And when he's finally like breaking through, she's so far gone. It's almost like, I don't think this is intentional, but it can feel like this idea of like the depression taking over.
Mhm.
Like he's finally breaking through, giving her the letter, but she's so far gone because now this demon's got her. And the mom, as the demon, is like, no, I didn't kill myself. I didn't kill myself. Telling her what she wants to hear. Back to that idea of using your thoughts,
Mhm.
right? Like in your psyche, taking your thoughts and using them against you. All the lore of this stuff really works in here. Like they used it well, and they used it in a way that was scary, and they used it in a way that was harrowing, and
It feels
I
fresh.
really like it. Yeah. Mhm.
So let's go to the scorecard on this.
Yeah.
What did you give it for acting?
I gave it a 3.
A 3. I gave it a 3.5. I pushed it a little because again, I was very impressed. I think the dialogue helped, and the characters themselves, again, they feel real to me. Those two things combined with talented actors, it makes it feel real. I very much enjoy. I got lost in the movie.
Yeah, we talk about this too, that like I always say to myself, like, if it's not American cinema, you get these people in other places, and I'm always like, are they like super famous over there and really good? And I just feel like to me they're unknown.
Yeah, which is great for horror.
Which I love for horror, exactly. Like, I think that's why I always tend to like these movies that are made elsewhere, because it's like, if you give me Brad Pitt and like Jennifer Aniston in a horror movie, like, it's not gonna work.
I'll take Brad Pitt in anything.
No.
Yeah.
See, but I'd be out of it. Like, I need those kind of like unknown people.
Come on,
to
12,
just
12
feel
monkeys?
in it.
7?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like, again, if you go back, like, they're probably good to watch, but would they be in your top 10?
They're phenomenal to watch.
I don't think they're
7 is in my top 10 movies of all time. Absolutely.
I just can't because of the like pop culture-esque nature of the casting. But whatever, that's just me.
It is a perfect film. It is a perfect film, and it is dark.
Bold words.
And it is dreary, and it is just ominous. It is despicable.
Is it a secluded Go Farm in Texas?
No, but it is awesome.
All right. Well,
All right, so for effects, I didn't go to kills here. There's not really kills. It's more really effect and like the effects on Riley that they do. I mean, like you were mentioning
I mean, there's some kill.
how they look. I know, but it's not like a kills
Yeah, it's
movie.
not a slasher.
Like you were saying, like, you know, when they get possessed with the eyes getting really
So
big. I mean, it just looks awesome.
Again, it was the very slow progression the longer they were in it, and I was like, that is so nicely done.
I gave it a
Obsessed.
3.
Yeah, same. Gave it a 3.
Gore, I gave it a 3.
Yeah.
I mean, again, that whole Riley scene is worth its weight.
Even
in
the
gore.
opening scene.
The opening
The
scene.
opening
Well,
scene.
they don't really show but yeah, the concepts behind that, you know, him
They
stabbing
didn't cut
himself,
away. They didn't.
stabs himself in the eye, like, oof. I mean, come
Oh.
on. The eye stuff, it's just,
Well, the eye is the seeing.
yeah.
Again, it all
And even
ties
just
in.
like, you
The
know,
third eye.
how gross the spirits, the dead bodies look, you know, that bloated
Yeah.
corpse of a woman. Obviously she must have drowned, and it's
Ooh.
just like, the fact that they're just kind of stuck like that, looking
Yeah.
like that too.
And and the whole thing when Mia sees the little kid and she goes, "I'll show you," and like lets her into her and sees Riley like in that state with all the demon. Oh, that was wild.
It is interesting now that I'm thinking about how the dead people look.
Mhm.
They all seem like there's victims of some sort of a trauma.
Yeah.
It's not like somebody who just
Unfinished
died
business.
peacefully of old age or whatever. It's like they
No.
just like they had their life cut short by they were murdered or they drowned or
Yeah,
they fell off a freaking
these are-
bridge onto the traffic.
These are demonic spirits. These are people who lost their lives and are angry in the afterlife.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. I guess you can only bad is on the other side of it.
I just don't think it's only bad, but in this case it is. Yeah.
For scare, I gave it a 4.
Same, because
Yeah.
again, like I think from the onset, like the opening scene all the way through, like they don't leave you hanging for long without like those gasp moments.
Yeah.
Even if they don't pan out to be like something really scary, like the tension builds and everything is there the whole time.
Yeah. And I think part of it too was, you know, obviously we've seen the possession thing a lot of times, but it was such a fresh take on it. And they really did a good job of selling, you know, when this thing goes bad, because they show you the good side of it, the euphoric, like drug user side of it. But then the nasty side of it is so darn nasty that you just, it does. It has that really scary tension to it.
Yeah.
Story, I gave it a 3.
Yeah, same. I think again, like had they found a better way to not have Mia do the hand herself, that's the minor plot hole for me in this one. That makes it not a perfect story.
Yeah, it also, I mean, again, it's hard to keep telling these stories of grief over and over again, you know, without, you know, obviously you can reskin it and you can do your own things with it. It's hard to stay as original as they did. And that's why I gave it a 3, because it really does seem like something that is specific towards how they did the movie for possession that's different than any other way that I've seen it.
Agreed.
A lot of others try to just kind of copy The Exorcist over and over again, or there's also that other one that was kind of clever. I think it was and it's not like a demonic possession, but in the same sense, it goes a little bit askew with it. Is that Autopsy of Jane Doe
Is that the
movie.
one where they're in the morgue?
Yeah.
Oh, that one's wild too.
Yeah. So they do like a little askew kind of move with that too, which is neat.
Yeah, because think about like working in a morgue.
Yeah, that's a creepy environment to set your
No.
movie. So for rewatch, I gave it a 2.
Yeah. I mean, again, like I would watch it again for sure. It's not like something I'll like always want to go back to, but I wouldn't say no.
Yeah, so we're pretty aligned there. I just gave it a little bit of a more bump for the acting.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to our next film, When Evil Lurks, 2023. This is Shudder's feature original film for spooky season. They've been marketing the crap out of this movie, much like they did with Skinamarink last year.
No.
Yeah.
Not even in the same category.
So this one, as we mentioned earlier, is not in English. I believe it's in Spanish, perhaps Portuguese. I don't know. But it was set in a remote village. These two brothers find a demon-infected man. And a rotten is what they call it, which is pretty cool.
Yep.
Another despicable, gross-looking configuration.
Yeah. The rotten For me, gives me Alfonso with the Frass vibes.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I
He
could see.
legit look like I was thinking about, I'm like, why does it look familiar? It's like Alfonso with the Frass got possessed and
You know you're not doing well as a human when somebody can compare you to a horror creature that's called the Rotten, right? It's like, oh, that kind of reminds me of this guy over here.
might be. But you know, the face and the body shape, it was all there.
So this is written and directed by Demián Rugna. He is responsible for films like Terrified, The Last Gateway, and You Don't Know Who You're Talking to.
Mm.
And, you know, we get a cast on here, but it's very hard for me to determine who's who. They actually don't list everybody on IMDb. Almost nobody has a picture. I mean, you talk about no-name folks.
I know, and this was the movie that made me really say that, right? Because I was like,
Yeah.
it's so interesting because everyone looks so real. Like real people. Like it's not glamorous Hollywood people. And it's, you know, you're in a secluded town, you're in this like very poor area clearly, and it actually reads that way.
Yeah. So the main two guys are these brothers that we follow, Pedro and Jimmy. Pedro is played by Ezequiel Rodriguez, Jimmy by Damian Solomon. And we basically pick up with them. They're investigating and find this half-eaten corpse.
Half a body.
Because they hear
Waist down.
they hear gunshots.
They heard gunshots, yeah.
So I think they arm up and they're like, all right, we got to go check it. It's that kind of a place, right? It's like everybody's got a shotgun or two.
I heard gunshots.
Yeah.
And I came a running.
And that's what you do in those places. You go investigate with your gun.
Yeah, no, I don't. But, you know, I would.
But anyway, they end up, you know, tracing it back to this other house where this Rotten is. A Rotten is according to the lore, a body possessed by an unborn demon awaiting physical rebirth.
Ugh.
So you can imagine, you know.
And that Rotten looked rotten. The makeup, the work that they did on that thing, it seems mainly practical.
It's all practical.
Is it?
I think,
couldn't tell
well,
for sure.
I guess you could technically, because this happens sometimes where we'll get a shot that has a lot of prosthetics and makeup on it, but it just has like seams or something that you have to cover up.
Right, like the pig, you had to do the eyes.
Yeah, something like that. Or yeah, you'll have to, maybe, you know, they'll enhance, you know, something that maybe didn't come out as good as they wanted it to on camera. But for the most part, this is a practical designed application.
Yeah, and it looked so good.
And I love the leaking bile, like the pussy stuff coming out. Like it really just adds to the scary, gross factor of the thing.
It was great. Like it was scary.
So what's kind of cool about this, you know, obviously you mentioned he looks like Alonzo from
Alfonso from Alice Sweet Alice.
From Alice Sweet Alice. So very large man.
Very large.
And you can't just put these things down. You have to hire a cleaner, which is kind of neat.
That was like so confusing to me. I thought the whole time they were talking about like, because there's that rich man. And I thought
the landowner.
I thought when they were saying cleaner, that it was like his housekeeping.
Mm.
And then I realized because of like that device that they found in the woods.
Yeah.
That was the original cleaner.
That got eaten.
Tools to do this. Yeah.
Which is cool. I mean, yeah, there's certain, I guess, tools or weaponry that you need to use in order to kill a Rotten, to dispose of it. Because otherwise, yeah, and they're about to use a gun and they get stopped because
she's like, no.
Yeah, it's like if you kill it, it's waiting to be reborn, right? In physical rebirth.
Yeah.
And if you do that, that's what you're going to unleash.
Yep. So there's rules of the game out the gate.
Mm-hmm. So now they choose, because they can't shoot it and they don't know how to use these tools. They go and get Ruiz, the landowner, played by Louis Ziembrowski. Mm-hmm. And he wants to shoot it with the gun too. And they're like, no.
Yeah.
Let's put it in the pickup truck. They're going to drive it, like 50 miles out, 60 miles, whatever
they were debating. And they're like, further? Should we go further?
Because what's kind of, you know, you're in a way you are fucked, because this thing, even though it's inside the Rotten, it spreads like a plague. It infects people that come in contact with it.
And everything even is enough to
So
possess something else.
right, so they got to get it out of here because even him just sitting there as a rotten is just slowly leaking and infecting the rest of the
Oh
town.
no, I better get out of here now.
Yeah. And you better believe you find a rotten, you better get out of here
Ugh.
now.
Yeah.
Now,
Nasty.
I don't really understand how it happens when they're driving, but somehow, one of the kids comes out into the road and forces Ruiz to swerve around, and they kind of almost get into an accident, but don't. And then they scramble out to see, okay, let's just make sure the rotten is still in the back of the pickup truck, and it's just gone.
Yeah, and no way. Because again, they struggled to carry this thing.
Oh, yeah, it
The
weighs a
weight
million
of
pounds.
it was he was 1,000,000 pounds. You could they specifically highlight how heavy this thing
So
is.
heavy, yeah.
And get it in the you can't tell me that if that fell off the truck at any time that you wouldn't hear or feel the difference in the pickup truck.
It
I
also just
disagree.
even if it fell out of the truck, because I think the back of the truck is even opened up, which I don't know how it would from this
Yeah.
situation, but you would assume that the rotten would have just splatted onto the ground
Right.
and just been stuck there.
Ugh. Well, that's what I mean. It's so heavy. It would have done a slow fall. You would have heard it. Nah, I don't know.
hmm
But anyway, you got to suspend your imagination. We're nitpicking here, but it is what it is.
Yeah, so I mean, the axe to the face thing was gnarly. That's after Ruiz uses his gun on one of the goats.
Yeah, so the
because-
goat gets infected by this thing,
Yeah.
and
It
what's
seems
so
like animals and children can be infected very
very
easily.
easily.
Yeah.
The amount of time they spend in this movie asking other people not to use a gun
Don't do
or
it.
kill it,
Yeah.
throughout the film, this is a common thread of will you or won't you listen, right? And it's almost
Mhm.
again a real test in these
Of
scenarios.
your pig-headedness.
Your pig-headedness. We're telling you, hey, if you make this decision, it will be bad. And you're like, fuck it. I'm still making it. You know what I mean? Well then, sir, axe to the face. I don't know. That's what you get.
Yeah. I mean, it's like a bang bang too. Like he shoots the goat, and his wife just whacks him with the axe immediately.
But then the best and most unexpected is not only that, she then turns around and does it to herself.
Epic. Absolutely epic. I mean, that one is very visual effects heavy, that shot.
I mean, yeah.
I could see, but it's well done.
It's got to be difficult to, pull off a practical axe to the face.
It's well done. I get shots all the time that, they want you to stab, add a blade because there's no blade in the knife or the axe or whatever. And then, stab. But it's very difficult to keep a puncture wound consistent, right? Because I had this one where it's I had to track it onto the actress's neck, but there's no tracker marker or anything, and it's she's in silhouette, is beautifully lit, they have this backlight, but she doesn't have a lot of texture or definition on her, and I can just tell them whoever shot this, you created a beautiful shot, but not for VFX.
Yeah, you didn't think about how to make it work.
Yeah, so sometimes it does backfire where, it's hard for me to keep a consistent point in which she's punctured, because she's puncturing over and over again, supposedly in the same spot, but the actress can't hit the same marker over and over again.
Yeah, every time.
So it's a little bit of a cluster, but
Yep.
they do it well. So yeah, I mean, this actually, sets the stage for just the overall brutality of the film. They don't hold back at all.
No.
And I audibly gasped with the dog when it just lunges and just grabs the daughter's face.
Yo, I saw that from a mile away. The way that they shot it, so good.
Oh my God.
They give you that POV behind the dog into the adults, which I thought was interesting. That shot.
Yeah, because you could see the adults arguing in the background. The whole blocking of it is great because we have the little girl and the dog in the foreground, and like you said, the arguing parents in the background. And the dog is acting kind of normal and then looks over at the girl, and then out of nowhere just snatches her face and you just hear it, the screaming. And the parents don't even hear it because they're arguing so loudly that the screaming is being drowned out. And they pan over to the little boy on the staircase witnessing this. And he is just instantly traumatized. His eyes are locked on it. He can't look away.
I know. And it's so brutal because it's not only that, but then the dog runs away with the kid.
With the kid in its mouth.
what? And the mother just loses it. Like,
How could you not?
I mean, of course, like it's the chaos of the entire scene is like a stress fest. Like you're just like, oh my God, I don't even know. Like I can't even process what's happening here right now.
This is like the worst case scenario result of like, we always make fun of my mom all the time, like
Yeah.
when the dogs get into a little scuffle and she's like, oh, like she freaks out
Yeah.
over it. Because
If she saw that scene, she'll never recover.
Well, she'll see it because she watches this podcast, and I'm gonna put the clip.
But if she actually watched that movie, forget it.
Oh,
Every
God.
time there's a kid in the house, that's all she will think about.
It is horrific, and there's a lot of horrific stuff in this. I mean, the kids when they get possessed at the end, and they get the cleaner lady Murda on the ground with they're just bashing her with the hammer over and over again as they
I have to
drag her out.
say, can we just talk about the consistency that men don't listen in
What?
this film?
Oh, well,
The
yeah. Well, I think
whole-
that's the point.
Yeah, all the women are like, don't do that. Don't do that. And the men are like, fuck it. I'm going to do it. And then they die.
Well, when you say the men, really the story of this film, it really centers around this guy, Pedro. And we see over and over again, he has this propensity to just sort of make bad choices. And we see how his life is, right? I mean, he has an autistic son. The little girl who we mentioned is actually the daughter of his ex-wife's husband.
Well, it's his ex-wife and her new husband's
daughter. Yeah. And because he has his own boys that he's trying to look
With
after,
her,
and
yep.
he's trying to look after and obviously they have a terrible relationship because they're the ones arguing while the little girl's getting her head chopped off.
Yeah.
So I mean, you could see his life is a mess, and him consistently trying to meddle and fix things and protect everybody is just failing over and over again.
Yeah, but it's still Ruiz and him. Those are two people right then and there. The cleaner with the old lady also in the beginning, because like the old lady tells Ruiz not to do XYZ, and he does. And then his wife tells him, and then he dies. And now Pedro, multiple times, multiple people tell him not to do something. He still does it.
What a shock. Men are responsible for people dying. I mean, that's just par.
No, I'm putting it on bad decisions and not listening and thinking you know better.
It's par for the course.
Anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, overall, this movie, I had somewhat of a hard time following it at times, and I think that's partially because of the language barrier. Obviously, there's subtitles, but it does become difficult to follow and especially because it's a remote village. They are foreigners. They have this different kind of lifestyle I can't really relate to, so it's hard for me to find my bearings sometimes.
Yeah.
And they are sort of scattered all over the village here and there because there's a little bit of like a road show with the traveling, like trying to get the rotten out and all that going on. I don't understand how the rotten ends up buried under that little stage or floorboarding covered in the.
I feel like we have to look, like maybe we missed something, but I know that it's supposed to be that the kids were protecting it.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big part of it. The kids were protecting the rotten. There were these other bodies thrown on top, covered in lime to hide the smell.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like a big part. But it's also like these kids killed all these people. Who dragged this body?
Well, that's just it. I feel like
into there and under the stage.
From the pickup truck to the stage, we don't see the rotten
how did this happen?
Between. So it's very confusing. It's a little jarring. Like, wait, how is this? And now they're prying up. So the ending of this is a little muddy.
It is, but I think it's redeemed by the fact of how creepy and brutal the ending portion with the kids is.
It's insane.
It's so unexpected.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that like I really loved is like from that point forward of like getting to that area with the stage and he's under there and these little kids. And again, this guy not listening, not believing. But then
Pedro's a bit of a shit show.
Oh my God. Like how many times you got to be wrong before you start listening to somebody?
It's absolutely crazy and it's bizarre, but it does feel, again, like it feels like a new thing. It feels very original.
Mm-hmm.
I was definitely scared and grossed out watching this thing.
For sure.
So let's go to the scorecard real quick.
Let's do it.
For acting, I gave this a 3.
Yeah, same. I gave it a 3. I mean, again, for people that to me seem unknown, I thought it was really well done. I thought they really drive home the terror and the fear and, you know, all of these emotions. I thought Pedro's great in the end with like just how desperate and
Yeah, because
destroyed he was.
he gets spared, which I was, I didn't understand the message as much with the sparing. I guess it's
It's because he's the
because
one who releases the demon. He kills.
maybe that's what it is. The,
Hmm.
the 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 demon spares him because he was the one that let him free.
Yep.
I could see
Essentially.
that. He
Yep.
also does have to live with this. I mean, he's obviously traumatized. His son, he's lost both of his sons. Like it's
Hmm.
just a bad situation all around for Pedro.
Yeah.
Really bad couple days.
It's interesting too because I would definitely want to look back now that you know that there's these subtle possessions
Yeah, to
happening,
try to catch
and
him.
that at the end they start wrapping
Hmm.
up, and it's like, oh, I want to see like where you could tell that
Yeah.
it happened.
For kills, I gave this a 4. I mean, come on. I mean, the just everything about these kills just screams like insanity.
Yeah, I mean, I gave the same because again, like they didn't shy away.
No, I mean, just the dog thing, the dog
The
biting
dog,
is
the
so
axe.
shocking.
We even didn't even talk about after the dog when the little girl comes back and now she's possessed, jumping up and
Yeah,
down,
they get
and
run
they
over.
drive right through. Like
Oh my
what?
God. Yeah,
Drove
it's
right through all of them and the kids jumping up and down. I'm like, this is
awesome.
another level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gore, I gave it a 3.
Yeah, same. I mean, again, like just the rotten himself
Oh my God.
in his existence, but then all of these kills that we're talking about,
Yeah.
like they did not shy away from giving you something.
And they're pretty bloody.
Yeah. Yeah, no shortage.
For scare factor, I gave it a 3.
So this is controversial.
Okay.
I gave it 2.5 because I think it's gory. I think the kills are there. I wasn't nearly as scared as with Talk to Me.
No.
And I think it might have been because we watched them together. Maybe if I watched it alone,
Yeah.
I'd be a little more, afraid of it. But I think in comparison to Talk to Me, like Talk to Me, I was so terrified. Like I feel like this
I
was
think
lighter for
I
me.
think yeah, but I think the way that I would couch it is, if I was to recommend a scary movie to somebody that doesn't really like scary movies or watch scary movies, this would not be on my short list because I just think it would totally blow them off the genre. I think it would just scare them to I think they would it's something
Yeah.
that's how I would gauge it of like a 2 is sort of the line where I go, all right,
Yeah.
it's your average level scary movie. This is not for the faint of heart
See, I
type of
still
movie.
am sticking to my 2.5 then
Okay.
because I think Talk to Me would be higher in
Well,
that
it is. I
realm.
gave it a 4 for scare.
Yeah, I know. But I don't think this one is that close in scare. But that's me. I don't know.
For story, I gave it a 2.
Same.
I sort of got lost a little bit along the way with, like we said, with the rotten, falling off the truck and the whole,
Yeah, a few little plot holes here and there. And then again, it was a little difficult to really piece it all. I think like so much of it wraps up at the end.
Yeah.
And I like
You
that
don't
sometimes.
get as much of a journey, I guess.
Yeah, you don't, because like even like the end when it's like the little kid reveals that like I'm the one who killed the cleaner, and it's
In the
like
beginning, yeah.
yeah, and you're like, wait, what? This
Yeah.
just comes out of nowhere now. Like I'm way past that. I'm just thinking the demon did it, you know,
Right.
like, and it's like it's not a twist that was like necessarily needed. I would have rather found
No.
that out sooner.
No, I think the best twist is the autistic son coughing up the mom's hair.
Mom's hair,
That's
yeah,
the best.
for sure.
And I like that it's like a secondary hit, right? Because I think maybe they were sort of aware of the fact that like, okay, if we have this kid and
gotta
he
do something with him.
reveals, that he was the one that almost like kind of kicked this off. It's not a big enough thing. It's more the autistic son.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I do like how it's sort of it seems like it takes the autistic son last. And maybe his autism might have something to do with that. That it's
hiding
harder.
the possession.
It's harder for them to possess an autistic mind is kind of interesting. I think where he sort of gets tripped up, if I'm not mistaken, I missed it while I was watching the movie, but in researching a little bit after the fact, I think he actually utters the devil's name or something like that against the grandma's wishes. She said, "You're not supposed to utter the name of the devil
Throughout it,
in the presence of this plague. It's a
Right.
bad thing."
Yeah. It's all all the rules.
Yeah.
She set out the rules very early on.
So for rewatch, I gave it a 2. It's not something that I would like to rewatch. Other than because of what you said, it would be kind of interesting to go back and see if you can catch those little subtle moments that we
Yeah.
might have missed. Maybe fill in a little bit of those holes that we sort of are blanking on after a one-time watch.
Yeah, sometimes like I feel when you're watching something like this and like you're trying so hard to pay attention
Right.
to the dialogue, you miss what's on the screen.
Yeah.
So now that like I don't really need the dialogue as much, I can gather what's going on. I want to actually watch the body language and
Mm.
like the things that happen in the shadows because that's a big part of what makes horror movies scary. And I think that may be why I didn't feel so scared because I was trying so hard to like understand the story because it's a little complicated
Mhm.
and so I have to read and I'm missing those like, wait, what was that in the corner?
Yeah,
Wait,
yeah, yeah.
did you see the way his eyes were? Like that's the stuff that
Yeah.
like really starts to get me because it's super psychological.
Mhm.
So I missed that a little. So I would watch it again for that reason.
So I two.
Yeah, so two.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Well, that'll do it for this episode. We don't have a game this time because we came off of a huge game.
Yeah, I think you guys are gamed out of us.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So next week, does the Eli Roth movie come out Thanksgiving?
Woo! It is coming out right before Thanksgiving, so we got to get our tickets. We're gonna see that one. We want to deliver the next pod with that as the star because
Okay.
it'll be right around. It'll actually be on Black Friday that we release this right after Thanksgiving. So what better movie to do it with?
Sweet.
A pilgrim slasher. Let's go.
All right. Well, that's it. Thank you for joining us once again. Yeah. And again, if you haven't and you love the show and you've made it this far and you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe, like, share, follow,
Everywhere.
all those things. Drop us a review wherever you get your podcast. We will see you on the next one. And remember,
we don't give awards for art.
How many times must I say it? I'm like a hamster on his wheel, I'm going round and around. Too many times I never meant it, and you always seem too bored with your innocent pose.